Hello and welcome to the Cardinals Scoreboard Show. This is Trey Graham along with Melissa Cardinals head football coach Matt Nally. The season finale of the Cardinals Scoreboard Show broadcast here from the Dugout Sports Grill at the Z-Plex. Coach Nally, we started with 1 in a row, 2 in a row, 3 in a row. We got to 10 in a row and 11 in a row. Unfortunately, we don't get to say 12 in a row,
right.
But a tremendous football season.
I agree. Once again, it's a testament to the kids. It's a testament to the coaching staff and just how they started off to where we finished.
Cardinals finished 11-3 overall on the season. Tough loss in the round of 8 to Stephenville Yellow Jackets. Our Cardinal fans may already know Stephenville has won again. They are in the state championship game this coming weekend. And so the question as we start is, do you want the guy who beat you to win it all, or do you not even care?
You know, so I've said before, I'm very loyal to the district and I'm very loyal to the region. So really, honestly, it's whoever, let's just say if Argyle was still playing, I'd want them to win. I'm loyal to the district. Stephenville is coming out of our region. I want them to win the state championship just because it's our region. I don't know anything really about LBJ, but, if it was somebody that was even my buddy, I would be rooting for our region and our district.
And does it give you any satisfaction if the guy who knocks you out wins the title?
No. Zero.
Okay.
Zero.
That's fair. Melissa lost to Stephenville in the round of 8, again, the regional final by a score of 24-21. Final score for the Melissa Cardinals, a record that is 11-3 overall. And it was a exciting game. It was a bit of a strange game. Coy Eakin, their very, very talented wide receiver, you shut down most of the game.
Right.
And at one point he goes 95 yards.
Right. Once again, you have to give kudos to that coaching staff for taking that shot when they took it. But most importantly, you have to give kudos to that kid because we had Jacob Fields on him most of the night, and then when we took him off, we would double cover. So they had a great concept and a great scheme, and when they found out that they could take that shot at that time, they took it, and kudos for that kid to making a catch because they did get tipped and making the most of it.
It was a tremendous run, 4th round of the playoffs, as we've talked about before, 3 times now in school history. 2011, 2017, now 2021. Talk about the pressure building each week. We had all of your players on during the playoff run here on the program, and I don't want this to end. I don't want this to be over, especially for the seniors.
Right.
Talk about the building process.
Well, the thing about when a football season begins, the worst part about it doesn't matter if, you're at Texas Stadium and it's joy, or if you lose in the 4th round, the season comes to an end, and that's the worst part about it. So for a coach, you're trying to play that next week to keep everyone together. As a kid, you're trying to achieve a state championship and memories and whatnot. For me, obviously, I want to win. But for me, it's you're addicted to kids, and you're addicted to being around that group of kids. And it was probably the best team I've ever been a part of in the regards of relationships and team unity. I've had more talented teams and been a part of more talented teams, but these kids wanted each other to be successful. And that's what was just so addictive to be around these boys. So for me, I stressed each week just because of the fact I wanted those kids to be successful. But honestly, you wouldn't think that our kids, if we would have played Argyle or if we'd have played Ranch View or whomever, our kids were, you wouldn't think that our kids had any pressure on them, which once again comes back to they were a good team. It was a good, fun group, loose group of kids to be around that believed in each other. So as a coaching staff, we probably had more nerves than the kids did. But, going through the playoffs, that's how it works. Every team that you were going to play was going to be good. You went to that bi-district round, and you knew your 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, and your 5th opponent, they were going to be amazing. So, honestly, for me personally, it was about the kids more than anything.
And I don't know if the viewers who never played football can relate, But it is a fact that you come to a year, and when the season's over, you win it all or you don't. It's never the same again.
Never.
Because you've got 4 classes, freshmen through seniors.
Right.
Seniors are going to move on. Somebody's going to move away. Somebody's going to move in. A new coach will come. A new assistant will come.
Right.
It'll never be the same again.
Correct.
And that's a pretty momentous time.
Right.
And not to be too dramatic about it, but it's for a young player, a young teenager, that's a time where it's really a chapter that changes.
Right. And, that's the thing about, what we're trying to relay in our vision of our program is consistency. So I think that helps kids get through those moments, but also helps kids down the road. Especially like when a season ends, you kind of identify yourself as a football player or whatever the case may be, and the season comes to an end, and then now what are you? I went through that when the Stephenville game ended. I told my wife, I don't know what I'm going to do now. And I've been doing this for 19 years, and 19 years it's ended. And I don't know what I'm going to do with my time. And you kind of fall in this depressive state for a little bit, just trying to figure it all out and whatnot. But once again, it goes back to kiddos being resilient. But I think the vision that we've been talking about since the last off season helps people get through that.
And one of the things I'd like to say to the viewers on camera is something I've told you off camera. Every one of your players who's come to do an interview with us have been respectful, they've
Right.
been mature, well-spoken,
Right.
good kids.
Right. All of them are great kids. And that's something that when people, a recruiter comes or a buddy of mine asks me about Melissa, I say the same thing. We don't have bad kids in Melissa. We just don't. I've been at places where you've had your knuckleheads and whatever the case may be. We don't have that here, and that's a blessing to be here. You have kids that want to be good, want to be great, absorb information, and have high expectations for themselves, which makes it fun to coach here. There's a lot of other people and a lot of other places that don't have that advantage. So, it's, once again, we want to be an extension of parents, but their parents have done a really good job of raising really good kiddos.
And we promise on this program, the Cardinal Scoreboard Show, to give the audience insights they don't get anywhere else. So take us in the locker room after the game. The season's over. For the seniors, some of them, their football career is over. Mm-hmm. Take us into that locker room.
Well, this has only happened to me once. And, Seth Pintor, because I was crushed when the game ended. Seth Pintor had come over to me, and it's a testament to Seth and just who he is as a person. Came up to me and said, you need to hold your head high. Hold your head high.
This is a teenager to a 40-year-old man.
40-year-old man.
Yes.
You need to hold your head high. There's nothing to be ashamed of. We did everything we could to win the game. You had us prepared, blah, 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 blah. And then Seth turned to the entire group and said, you returners, you take every second of off-season seriously. Every single second, seriously. And we literally, the clock strikes 0 maybe 3 minutes before that happened. You know what I mean? So that was overwhelming to me. In 19 years, I've never cried. Or 18 years, I've never cried. That game ended. I cried multiple times throughout the night, which makes me maybe sound whatever, but it was just it affected me in a way that it's never affected me before. Just like I said, just the kids itself. But when you walk into a locker room after that, it is a lot of crying. It's a lot of hugging. It's a lot of thank yous, and a lot of promises from the younger kids to the senior kids, and a lot of thank yous from the seniors to the younger kids. It's just emotional. Everything about it is emotional. You look around and you have something special when everyone's crying. You're in a tough spot when no one's crying.
Because it looks like nobody cares.
Right. And the thing that gets me is, you see the trainers crying and people that aren't players, but they're connected to the program. when they're emotional too, that gets you as well. But the whole thing is emotional. I mean, we usually, from the time the game ends to the time we leave, is about a 45-minute span. I want to say we were there for about an hour and a half or 2 hours, just trying to collect ourselves and whatnot before we got on the bus and left.
I assume you had fellow coaches or parents or fellow teachers that reached out to you?
Yeah, I mean, first off, had a bunch of parents here that met me after the game and whatnot. But you have, so many former players here, so many former players I've had in the past. I had teachers reach out to me, administration from Melissa and other schools, and then coaching friends throughout the state reached out as well. And, I mean, at the end of the day, you're appreciative of that, but you don't want to hear it,
Right.
So, but I mean, coaching is a fraternity, and you're in the right place when people will tell you if it's a good game or a bad game. They'll call you or text you or whatever the case may be and say, "Hey man, congratulations," or "Hey man, great season," whatever the case may be.
That phrase, great season.
Right, that is not
I
something
mean, I
you want
sent
to hear.
it to you, right? But that's the phrase that says it's over.
Right,
Yeah.
and that's something you don't want to hear.
Right.
But it's even education. Education is a fraternity. It's just everyone is so close, tight knit. There's a lot of people that don't go through what we go through, and there's this saying, I mean, teachers and coaches, have sleepless nights for other people's kids, and that's the truth. And you sit there and you worry about, Billy Joe Bob or Susie, and they're not your kids. So people, they understand how much we invest into a kid, and it is a long, grueling grind. And the thing about it is that no coach would change it. Every coach enjoys it. Every coach enjoys being around the kids. Every coach enjoys, we're 5A now, and we had the conversation the other day about spring ball, and, spring ball is going to be here that quick, and then the season's going to be here that quick again. And, our coaches are excited about spring ball starting, but being around the kids again. You get to do off season, which off season to me is molding and creating, not a player. Like, people go and think the off season is, about building players. To me, it's about building people in that part of it. We can build players as we go through it, but really I want to stress more than anything in the off season about, can I make that person a good person, rather than, I can always get a kid stronger and this, that, and another. And but when you go through that off season program, a coach is up here from 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning to, I got coaches still up there right now, and football ended 2 weeks ago, and so, I mean, it's just it's a moment that all coaches and teachers and people that are involved in the school business should be applauded, just because of the fact that they do so much stuff, and people in the business recognize that, and they'll, I've got teachers that never coached before, and they'll say, "Hey, Coach Nally, great job," or whatever the case may be. And the one thing that made me emotional after that game, a kid said something to me, and I turned, and my dad was tearing up, and I was like, "Man, what's wrong with you?" And he said, "I can't believe that boy has that much love for you," and stuff like that. You just don't see that emotion every day, but that goes on every day in education, with students and teachers and coaches.
I think we need to ask the converse question. Has anybody reached out and not been kind?
No. I mean, you have, like, knuckleheads. Like, I have buddies who've, this, that, and another, whatever the case may be. And a lot of them like to say, did you watch that Stephenville game, when they played Hershey? Absolutely not. I did not watch 1 second of it. But no one said anything negative. No, sir.
You've been watching this segment of the Cardinal Scoreboard Show. We're broadcasting from the Dugout Sports Grill at the Z-Plex. We're going to take a break. We're going to talk about the season overall. Lots and lots of Cardinals made the all-district team. We'll talk about that in a moment. I do invite you and your family to join us in our church home. Go to firstmelissa.com to find out more, especially Christmas Eve candlelight service is coming up. Join us in person on Christmas Eve, 2 p.m. or 4 p.m. Our online service on Christmas Eve will be 6 p.m. Go to firstmelissa.com to find out more. This is Trey Graham with Matt and Allie, and we'll be back right after this. You're watching the Melissa Cardinals Network. Welcome back to the Cardinal Scoreboard Show, broadcasting from the Dugout Sports Grill at the Z-Plex. We want to thank Mike Dembski for allowing us to be here all season long, and we want to thank you for joining us all season long. We want to wrap up our season talking about the Cardinals' 2021 campaign, finishing with that 11-3 record. And Matt, I'm going to kill you with a bunch of stats just for a minute, okay? Your offense scored 583 points.
Not bad.
42 points per game. Defense allowed 271. That's 19 points per game, so pretty good average over 14 games to win 42-19.
Right.
Sam Finnegan threw for just under 3,000 yards, 2973, 39 touchdowns. Ashton Mitchell-Johnson, 1,720 yards.
That's pretty good.
He sat right here and said he wanted to rush for 1,000.
Right.
1,700's more than 1,000 for the math majors out there. 17 rushing touchdowns. Javon Smith averaged 17 yards a catch, 48 catches, 15 touchdowns.
It's impressive.
Matt Sanford averaged 15 yards a catch, 45 catches on the year, 5 touchdowns. Team offense averaged 438 yards per game, and you allowed 283 per game. So, before I go on, you more than double your opponents on average in points and in yardage.
Right.
Kudos to your offensive and defensive coordinators.
Correct. You know, I mean, that's just it too. Like, I'm an offensive guy, so a lot of people point me and say, hey, you know, Nally's doing this offensively and whatnot. I don't really have a lot in the Friday night play calling. I might tell Jason, you know, hey,
Jason Russell, offensive coordinator.
you know, run it here or pass it here or whatever the case may be, or go for it. But when it comes to Friday night, you know, it's more of a managing situation for me. And Jason really does that all by himself with coordination with his offensive staff. You know, Ryan Hamilton is an offensive genius. And then Coach Rosh and Coach Peel are just gurus when it comes to inside the box play, and Coach Pickup can see things that a lot of people other people can't see, and they're just really good at their job. And then you have Coach Hemsley on the other side, that
Nate Hemsley, defensive coordinator.
he has such a knack for motivating kids to play extremely hard. And that's something, when I took the job, I didn't want people to think that Melissa was an offensive school, and it kind of had that stigma about it, that it was an offensive place. And I wanted it to have, we're a defensive, physical team. And we really
Because I've told you over the years my definition of defense.
No, what is it?
Score more points than they do.
Right. I did not want to be that way. I wanted it to be, we're hard-nosed, fast, physical. I did not want it to be a lot of thinking. I wanted the kids just to react and play, and those kids have taken on the persona of Coach Hemsley, which is fast and physical, but the whole staff is unbelievable. Coach Pennington's an unbelievable inside backer coach and does a lot with the game planning, and Coach Kiefer does the same thing with the game planning and our defensive line, and Coach Spann is our defensive pass game coordinator, and he does an unbelievable job with matchups and how we should play, and Coach Majors and Coach Busa on the edge do an amazing job. So you know, a lot of people give me credit for winning a game, and it shouldn't be that way. I'll take all the credit for losing the game, but for winning a game, those guys do an amazing job at their job. So we're really, really blessed to have them in Melissa.
do you think all the coaches will return next season?
Honestly, I hate to be this way. I hope not. I feel like if I've done my job, I try to promote coaches, and not just that. My job as the head coach is to make coordinators ready to be head coaches, assistant coaches ready to be coordinators. So I sure hope that these guys take an opportunity and look to better themselves with a promotion. Now, obviously, you can't get a better place than Melissa. But these guys, I think that everyone.
Do you recommend them for jobs?
I do.
With their approval or without their approval?
Right. With their approval. But, at the end of the day, I would have never gotten my first head job or my second head job if someone didn't push me in that direction. And I just feel like, my job, my duty for them is to push them in that direction. So I hope everyone comes back. But at the other side of the coin, I hope every one of them has an opportunity to get promoted.
Do you know your career head coaching record?
I don't.
Did you look on my paper?
I did, but I can't read.
Okay. Overall, Frankston and Melissa, 44-27.
It's all right.
At Melissa, 31-10.
That's better.
That's better. 75% of your games at Melissa, you win them.
Dang right. Go me.
That's pretty good. Do you care about these things?
I don't. My wife or my mom, somebody brought this up to me maybe last year about what are you going to do when you win 100? Nothing. The same thing. Right. Yeah. The same thing I've done. So, and the crazy thing is when I was.
Go to the Dugout Sports Grill for dinner. There you go.
Right.
Yeah.
The craziest thing when I was younger, it was all about winning. And now I'm just not that same person anymore like I used to be. It's about, how can I make that kid's life better? And that's always kind of been of a byproduct of winning. So if you can build a relationship and help a kid see their potential and see where they can go by helping them also be a better person, and most of the time the byproduct of that is you win. So, but once again, I've been very fortunate enough here to be around really great coaches and really great players. But no, sir. I mean, to get, spiritual here, the good Lord above isn't going to be like, I'm not going to walk up there when I pass away and be like, hey, you didn't win 100 games, man. Can't get in. You know what I'm saying? So that doesn't, no, sir. I'm going to 44-27. I gotta make that better.
You got to work on that.
Yeah, I got to get that better.
Go 11-3 or better, and it'll do even more. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about a few things that we've discussed over the season, all year long here on the Cardinal Scoreboard Show. What is the recruiting situation for your players right now?
So it got really crazy. It might have been the La Vega week where recruiters were just coming in crazy like. The Stephenville week, it was insane. I couldn't tell you how many recruiters we had those 2 weeks span. I'm going to say it was in the 20s or the 30s. It was just a
different
ton,
colleges,
different schools. So normally the D2s and the D3s, D1, AA's, they don't really start making their way in until the D1s have kind of come and that wave has gone. Well, they didn't do that this year. They came in with them. So especially, I guess it was a week ago. We have college recruiters at practice, and that usually doesn't happen until the spring. Excuse me. So, but like we had Rice and Texas Tech and anybody and everybody you could think of at practice, which was kind of neat for the kiddos. I don't think so.
And they're all wearing their gear, so there's no mystery who they are.
Right, but I don't think so because it was wild when Brendan and Kennedy and Jabray were going to be senior and juniors. It was wild at the school. There's so many, but it was in the spring. This has been going on since Dallas Carter. We've had recruiters at games, on the sideline, and there were recruiters on the sideline Friday night at Stephenville. So it heats up. Once again, going back to the super senior and all that stuff, I think you're going to see some of our kids get hit by some schools that people didn't think they were going to get hit by, just because of some of the things that are going NCAA wise and whatnot, and people are kind of, I guess the word would be distracted or not as attracted to the transfer portal as they used to be. And I don't know if you saw that data, but it came out this week that there was like 1,500 kids in the transfer portal, and like 250 were going to find a place. So 1,200 kids were not going to find a place to play. So
just for the education of the audience, in case they're not as nerdy as we are about these things, you can now transfer one time without penalty.
Right.
In Division I sports. Used to be you would have to sit out a season if you transferred, but COVID.
right,
So you can transfer one time without penalty. You can enter the transfer portal, which, let me explain to you the process how you do that. You walk into the athletic department administrator and say, I'd like to be in the transfer portal.
correct,
And there it is.
correct,
That's the entirety of it.
correct,
You can enter the transfer portal. You can get re-recruited
Right.
by all the colleges in the world, but then you can choose to stay where you are.
right,
So I'm sure it's going to be the case where player X goes into the portal,
right,
looks around, gets no offers or no interesting offers, and says, never mind,
correct,
stays where they are.
right, right.
Keep going.
So, the perfect example is Washington State. Washington State was at our school, and they said, we're not even touching the transfer portal. We can just see how that could potentially be a negative thing. So I think that, people are still going to dive into it because there's some good players there, but I think people are going to start going back to the high school athlete, which obviously helps out our kiddos. So, but recruiting is hot and heavy. And it's never been like this in Melissa at this point in time. It usually starts in February, and it's late February. They take a break, and then late February, March, it just is wildfire.
For that year's graduating seniors or the juniors?
No, for the juniors.
Yes.
For the seniors now, it'll be like that. Once all bowl games and this national championship is over, it'll be wildfire for them too. But because it's those smaller schools that are looking for kids that have fallen through the cracks, and they'll come out like wild. The JUCOs and people like that will come out. But we have some, very high-class recruits right now in Melissa. Nigel being one of them. Caleb's another one.
Sophomore and junior.
Right. And Trevor's
Junior. Trevor Goolsby.
Right, he's turned into a national recruit.
Nigel Smith, Caleb Otlewski, and Goolsby. Yes.
Yeah. And then Jacob Fields is another kid that has a D1 offer, but he's
Junior.
He's going to get a bunch more. And then Owen Hollenbeck, who's just a freshman, there's been so much interest in that kid. So it's just a wild time. Kennedy Brantley, Carson Maynard's going to be
Kennedy Brantley, sophomore. Carson Maynard, sophomore.
He's going to be a big recruit. You just can't teach size.
So I've heard.
So you're just going to have a bunch of schools that are going to come after these kids early on. So it'll be a lot of fun. And then you're going to see a kid like a Walker Overman, a Jacob Casano, a Javon Smith, because slots are such a big deal in most people's offenses. And not just that, but Walker can do so many things that people are going to come and take a shot at him and those other kids just because they're extremely talented. But that slot position
Inside wide receivers, what that means.
is such a pivotal thing in most people's offenses. I could keep going. Like Gunnar Wilson's going to be a kid that's going to be, people are going to take a big, long look at. He fits so many molds. He can
Played linebacker and tight end
right.
for
He
you.
can play an outside linebacker so long. He can play that tight end H position because he's a catch. He's fast, and he's so physical. And once again, you look at the age. I look at Walker Overman. He's 16 years old, and he is can run that fast, and he's that athletic. People are going to say, "Wow, I'm going to take a shot at that type of kid." Same thing with Gunner and Maynard and people like that. So yeah, we're going to have a ton of kids go through the recruiting process and just that whole thing. It's fun. First off, now it can become frustrating because you want that instant gratification and whatnot. But it's a process. It's not like when we were kids. Can you play? Yes. All right, come on. Now it's, I'm going to look at your Twitter feed, your Facebook, or I don't even know if kids do Facebook, but your social media. I'm going to look and see what your grades are. Like we were kids. Hey, man, can you
Teenagers, are you listening to this right here?
Can you chew and walk gum? Yeah, come on. It's not like that anymore. And, they're going to want to talk to your parents. They're not just recruiting kids, they're recruiting parents. It's such a business now. One recruiter told me it's $150,000 to $200,000 investment. And that's how schools are feeling now. Like, I'm not going to invest $200,000 in you if you're going to embarrass me, or your parents are going to embarrass me, or the program.
Are you listening to this, teenagers? Yes, this is a serious thing.
Right. So,
but guess what? Employers are looking at social media accounts. As an employer, we're looking at social media accounts of potential people that we hire.
So it's such a big thing, rather than, like I said, when we were kids, can you throw and catch? Yes, come on. So it's just a different dynamic. You're not promoting the player anymore. You're promoting the person.
Right.
And
which is why the young men that have been on this program and have performed so well as guests on the interviews, I think that's something that the coaches on the next level should see.
Right. I totally agree with you. And once again, I'll say it again, and I tell every recruiter when they walk in, this is different. This is a different place. I used to coach in East Texas, and, you're going to have some knuckleheads. We just don't have it. Everybody's very respectful. Everybody has high expectations for themselves, not just on the field, but in the classroom. So it's just a different place. It's a great place to be at.
And Matt Nally won't say it, but a lot of that is due to Matt Nally. I'm telling the audience that.
I appreciate it.
Somebody that you need to talk about is your kicker.
Yeah.
Anna Blankenship has already signed her letter of intent to go play college soccer.
She is, and I've said this before on this program, but I'm going to say it again, probably top 5 toughest people I've ever been around, and probably top 5 most determined people I've ever been around. When we just kind of went to her, actually, Coach Hamilton had her in PALS, and she came up to him and said, hey, I'm thinking about kicking. And I knew she was the...
Did he know she could play or not?
No.
Okay.
No. I knew that she was the goalie on the soccer team, but I had no idea, that she could kick. And at that time, we had Luke Hansen on our team. And but the year previous to that, Luke got hurt. And Damon was our backup kicker, and he got hurt. So we had to go recruit Grayson Hurst to come out and kick. So he ended up.
So high school coaches, and again, for the education of the audience, they walk up and down the high school hallways and say, you look big, or I've seen you play soccer.
Right.
Come with me.
Correct.
Yeah.
So he came out and he kicked, and then we're like, man, wow, we didn't want to be put in that situation again. So I knew I was going to have some kickers, but Walker can kick really good too. So I was like, well, Walker can kick. So she came out and she said, I'd like to try. So she started kicking for Coach Hamilton. I never saw her kick. She started kicking for Coach Hamilton. Coach Hamilton was like, man, she can boot it. So I was like, wow, I guess we need to, just give her a shot, give her a look. And I knew, I've seen her play soccer. I did not realize how tough she was. And when I got to talking to her, I was like, oh, she can do this. She can do this. It doesn't matter if a kick gets blocked and somebody's running down the sideline. She's going to go full speed, and she's going to try to make a tackle. She wasn't going to be that typical kicker that's like, I kick. I'm not tackling.
And I'm sure somebody's going to ask the question, so let's answer it. How did the locker room situation work with a girl on the team?
Oh, she was a teammate.
I mean, dressing rooms and that kind of thing.
So
logistics.
We had, here in Melissa, she had her own room. And then when we went on the road, she had her own room. So we would just call stadiums up and say, hey, we have a female kicker. Can you please have a spot for her when we get there? So, and everybody was very, very cordial and accommodating to her.
Another subject that's already been brought up, but we need to get into for the education of our audience. If you are watching and you are not following the Melissa Cardinals Network on Facebook, you should, because we've been telling you for months now about what was called Snapshot Day back in October. We wrote out a whole long, nerdy article about how snapshot enrollment works and classifications in 6A, 5A, 4A, etc. As we predicted, the Melissa Cardinals in the next school year will move to Class 5A.
Correct.
There's 1A through 6A, in case you're not aware of this. The biggest schools are in 6A, where Cardinals will be in 5A starting next school year. That applies to all extracurricular activities, football, basketball, baseball, that's tennis, that's debate, that's band competition, that's everything.
Right.
And then within football, you divide it into the bigger half and the smaller half of each classification. So that's 5A Division II. All that introduction, what does it mean to you?
It's kind of exciting. You know, I mean, we had the little bit of hope that we would stay 4A. But honestly, when they came out with 5A, we all were kind of like, yeah, I mean, we kind of figured it.
Now, let's go ahead and say it. Melissa's going to be one of the very smallest
Right.
5A schools
Right.
because you were 17 students
Correct.
above the cutoff line.
Right. So it's just a new challenge, you know. I mean, you have, I wouldn't say you've conquered 4A by any stretch of the means, but you put your stamp on it. So going into 5A, like I said, it's just a new challenge. To me, it's exciting, too. Like, I kind of get bored with the same old, same old. So as a coach, personally, I kind of welcomed it. And it's just something to say, you know, we're Melissa, and we're going to continue to be who we are. We're going to be gritty. We're going to be physical, and we're going to show you guys what Melissa football is about. It doesn't matter if it's 4A or 5A. The craziest thing about each alignment is trying to find games, and that's the hardest thing right now. Like, no one wants to play me. You know, I put on Twitter the other day, I said, you know, Melissa's looking for, you know, games, yada, 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 and this guy said, you need to call Clemson or Alabama, you know, and I thought that was funny, you know, clever.
Doesn't help you out, though.
Right, doesn't help me out. I'm still looking for games, you know, so you have that. That's the hardest thing about it. But the 5A thing, once again, it's a new challenge. It's just like, you know, we had to get over that hurdle of Salina when I first got here, and we jumped over it. And then we had to get over the hurdle of Argyle, and this year we jumped over it. So it's just, you know, another hurdle to go over, and our kids and coaches are up for the challenge. And like I said, for me, it's kind of exciting to be a 5A football program, and you get to do spring ball, and there's just so many other cool things you get to do. And so for me, I think it's exciting and fun.
You're watching the Cardinal Scoreboard show. In a previous program this year, we talked about how players are named all district, and then it went into the box in the mayonnaise jar and hidden in the backyard, and
Right.
nobody could release it, as you told us, until the last team in your district is eliminated.
Correct.
That was you. So the all-district team was announced. I could read the long list, but it's a very long list.
Right.
So let me just give a few names. District Most Valuable Player, quarterback Sam Finnegan. Offensive Player of the Year, senior running back Ashton Mitchell-Johnson. And let's stop right there and say, good choices.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when we went into it, the hardest thing was to pick that district MVP because there were so many kids that it could have been. You know, we had wrestled with, could it be this kid, 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 and then at the end of the day, we just kind of landed on Sam because Sam was so integral to our team. Obviously, our offensive production, but overall our team. He was such a big, character that I'm going to miss just because of the fact of his leadership ability. And then going to Ashton with the Offensive Player of the Year, I don't think there's another kid in the state of Texas that ran as hard as he did. Each game, you know, it might be.
You know his name on the broadcast?
What's that?
Ashton Mitchell-Johnson with a tough run.
Right.
Tough run.
Right.
That's I repeat myself a lot.
And,
Yes.
the crazy thing is it didn't matter if it was a wide open run, he was going to run as hard as he could, or if it was the gap was closed, he was going to run as hard as he could. And I'm so grateful for that kid for being a teammate like that. And not just that, but he was a role model showing those younger kids, this is how you do it. This is how you run the football. So I really believe that obviously those two kids got the right superlative.
Defensive Newcomer of the Year, we've already mentioned his name, defensive back Jacob Fields. Defensive Lineman of the Year, sophomore Nigel Smith. Then 10 different players
Right.
were named First Team All-District. 5 other players were named second team all-district.
Right.
And then 18 other ones named honorable mention all-district.
Right.
That's over half your program.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. When you win, you get a lot of kids that get awards. That's what we tell kids, the individual stuff comes after the team stuff. And if your team is successful, normally you're successful as an individual. So, you can't, I'm telling you, that's the craziest thing about it is there's so much talent, but it's just so many good people to be around. There's so many good people on that list. And it's going to be hard that team's not going to be together next year.
So as we wrap it up for this program and for this season, take a minute, talk about the viewers, the listeners, the fans, the Cardinal family.
It's such a unique situation to be in because, even when that game ended against Stephenville, there was people I have never seen before that came up and shook my hand and patted me on the back and said good job. And I go back to the La Vega game because I went and watched Mount Vernon play Brock last week at McKinney. And I remember being at that La Vega game going, golly, this is Thanksgiving. And our stands are full. And at that Brock and Mount Vernon game, we dwarfed them when it comes to the overall stands. And Melissa's a great place. It's a great place that people care about people. And not just care about people, but care about people that they might not know personally, but they care about because they care about the situation that they're in. And then this community cares about kids. And that's, to me, the biggest thing, about being a parent. I want to be a part of a community that everyone has a solid interest in the youth and the future of our community. So I can't ask for better fans or a better place to be.
And on our last program, we took a week off, you and me, but your old buddy Jerry Wharton, Director of Fine Arts, got to sit right here in the hot seat.
Yeah.
Talk about the Fine Arts program.
Mr. Wharton does a great job. I was never in theater, but I always wanted to be. I was just too nervous to be a part of that. And our theater department's amazing, obviously. But Jerry does a great job. Mr. Wharton does a great job with just overall, once again, I don't know a band director. I coached at other places where a band director would text you and say, hey, man, great job, or whatever the case may be, or after a game, come give you a hug. And, after that mid-low game, he gave me a hug and said, man, let's not do this again.
Yeah.
So I can't find a better supporter than Jerry Wharton. And not just that, there's other people at that school, like Eric Benton, the basketball coach. He has been a huge supporter of mine throughout the entire season. But, to have somebody in your corner like Jerry, and, I try to support Jerry as well. But once again, it's about being Team Melissa, and we try to be teammates.
We do want to thank all of the Cardinal fans for joining us all season long. We want to say thank you to Mike Dembski and Tracy Dembski and all the folks here at the Dugout Sports Grill for allowing us to broadcast each week from this location. You need to visit dugoutsportsgrill.com to learn more. You need to come and enjoy dinner here. And I want to say thank you, Coach, for being part of this with me. It's been a fun season.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
11 wins in a row.
Yes, sir.
11-3 overall. Final record, the Melissa Cardinals made it to the 4th round of the playoffs. Whenever it ended, it was going to be a tough loss unless you were holding that big ball at the end. And so it was a tough loss against Stephenville, but outstanding season. 11-3. Thank you for your time. Please visit us online in our church home, firstmelissa.com. Thank you for being a part of this. Hope you have a wonderful rest of the holiday season. Merry Christmas. You've been watching the Cardinal Scoreboard show from the Dugout Sports Grill.